Hello, my name is Elijah Wells, and today, here's my official list of my top 10 films of 2022. Okay, as usual, I usually keep doing these like later into January or early into February, just on sole post, so I can watch movies that have been out to public, even though they've been out for the rest of the world, like in film festivals and other portions of the world. So, let's get on with it. But before I get into the top 10, let's shed some light to some honourable mentions, like honourable mentions being Avatar: The Way of Water, and see how they run. Now, for the top 10. At number 10, we have Jordan Peele's Nope. Even though it's a simple story about an African American horse farmer who works in Hollywood and ends up fighting an alien invasion, it may sound like pretty basic in the surface, but never scrum, because Jordan Peele is more than just on a paper director. He goes like really beneath like the gritty itty like below the surface. And what you say, I like his films like Get Out and Us. Nope is no exception, no pun intended. The movie, even though it does showcase his work in a more grander scale with a bigger budget and using more sci-fi and more supernatural elements as opposed to his other films like Us and Get Out, and of course with a bigger scale, bigger budget, he is really able to completely flex his creativity almost to like unseen territory. And that he also did say in a really recent interview that he had turned down the Akira remake, even though I think, to be honest, it may not even see the light of day, given how it's been in development hell for like an eternity. But I think he also paid homage to, again, said Akira with the bike slide, which has been referenced to mostly like a lot of animations and a lot of anime nowadays. And also the performances are brilliant, the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous, and him using more CGI in his movies really does show that he's very capable of like more lower budget films, and as well as more big scale, bigger budget films like Nope. At number 9 we have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever by Ryan Coogler from Marvel. Even though we can all agree this movie did come from like a unexpectedly dark place, and something that Marvel initially did not have in mind, being Chadwick Boseman's unfortunate passing in 2020. Again, they've really utilised it in a very strong and very mature way, which is really surprising and really poignant, considering Marvel had not had the best year, in my opinion, particularly with She-Hulk and the a lot of critical backlash towards Love and Thunder, which has been seen, including me, as one of the weakest MCU offerings out there. But they definitely did counter that out with the brilliant movie that is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Like, even though the movie is still making waves at the moment, just like the first film, particularly with Angela Bassett, who has won a Golden Globe for her performance and has also been nominated for a BAFTA and an Oscar. For the first time ever, a performance in the MCU has been nominated. Like, even though, like I said, her performance has been brilliant in the movie as well. Like I said, I think Black Panther is definitely one of my favourite MCU movies. But the movie again has some brilliant world building that expands off the worlds of Wakanda and the social and economic political landscape that is around MCU, and particularly all around Wakanda at this moment, and how the general stuff around Wakanda usually would work, since it does dwell into that territory a lot more easily than the first film, to be a little bit honest. And even the Nemu, or the water mutant, even has one of the most intriguing backstories of. But I think, to be honest, of a lot of villain characters of the MCU, the fight scenes are brilliant. A lot of characters they bring have so much layers into them, and so much character and so much definition that binds them all together and binds them as individuals. So much so you can like make Wikipedia pages out of them. And the music as well with Rihanna and Louis Gorson is also brilliant. So this is definitely a worthy companion piece to the first film that came out back in 2018. And for number 8 we have Tar by Todd Fields. Even though I think Todd Field taking his time with this movie will be a bit of an understatement, since he had spent 16 years on a hiatus between that film and 2006 Little Children. But I think what he brought in store was really terrifying, to be honest. Like, the movie is starring Cate Blanchett in this psychological thriller about a composer's life who begins to really unravel after some really unflattering stuff around her life, and how she treats her employees begins to surface. It's basically, the movie is not just a cancel culture bad type of movie. I feel like it's a deep exploration of the dark ramifications surrounding cancel culture and how celebrities would usually come back from it, most of the time usually unscathed, and how people and a lot of business associates and a lot of employees would basically like go out their way to almost either backstab you or kind of like take some shade at you. And also, Cate Blanchett's performance in this movie is unbelievably brilliant, I can say as well. The cinematography in this movie is absolutely gorgeous, and the scenes that are particularly terrifying, like the concert scene, and as well as Linda Tarr like running in the park and hearing someone getting assaulted and hears nothing, are like absolutely really gripping and pretty intense. And the movie is almost in the same vein as like some Stanley Kubrick film. Like, the movie, although some may like brush it off like, ooh, too slow, but once it clicks, it really gets going. Like, the movie has this eerie vibe to it as well. Again, to a lot of Stanley Kubrick films, even though the director himself has starred in Eyes Wide Shut, so I think it almost like evens out a little bit. But again, the atmosphere in this movie is really intense, and it kind of utilizes it in a really gripping way. In a movie that, what to say, isn't afraid to ask you like some really difficult questions that, what to say, are not rhetorical. At the same time, they are not yes or no answers to these questions. So, at number 8, it's tough. At number 7, we have The Banshees of Inisherin. The movie, what to say, I think fascinated the internet the more longer it came out, even though there had been a lot of Oscar buzz surrounding the movie. It's basically just two friends who decide like, oh, we're no longer friends, in the backdrop of the Irish Civil War. Like, the performances, again, are brilliant, are great in the movie. The direction and the writing of Mark McDowell, who is very well known at this point for like dark comedies, is also brilliant and very sharp with his wit as well. Cinematography and music, particularly with his previous film that came before, Three Billboards, is incredible as well. But I think the one thing that fascinated a lot of people is the kind of taking the notion of toxic masculinity, but in the setting of 1920s Ireland in the backdrop of the Civil War, which is a bit of a surprising turn, but something that is very conceivable in the movie. And of course, there's also like a lot of theories suggesting that letting like the movie is almost like a grieving process, or refusing to let go of a dead one. Like it's almost like the Brandon Gleeson's character is dead all along, and it's almost like a ghost saying like, it's okay to let go now, like, I'm no longer here. It's almost going down this supernatural valley that movie almost kind of feels like more supernatural thriller than it is in juxtaposition of a dark comedy. Again, performances all around are brilliant, and also the setting, even though it's set in a rural Ireland, off the coast of Ireland, of course. The world building is actually great, the writing is brilliant, I like the acting very much, and I really like Colin Farrell's performance in this movie as well, and I really like the dark sense of humour, even though it may be a bit too much for some audiences, but nevertheless, I honestly kind of enjoyed the movie. So, number 7, The Banshees of Inisherin. For number 7, it's Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Okay, this year has not been the best year Netflix has been through. Like, yes, they had like All Quiet on Western Front. Yes, they had Knives Out, a Glass Onion movie, and also it was the same year where they had Blonde and Jeffrey Dahmer, and also they lost subscribers for a little bit but bounced back, and also cancelled a bunch of animated series, which really ruffled a lot of feathers. But I think the bright star of this year for Netflix, even though it's not been a great year for them, is Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Again, almost like the first film, which is Daniel Craig as the detective who solves a massive mystery, but most of the witnesses are essentially rich scumbags. Again, I do admire Wright Johnson's films a lot. I really like the first Knives Out movie. I do like Last Jedi, which is again a bit of a controversial opinion, but what are you going to say about that? But I think the movie is almost like Glass Onion. Like the more layers you kind of peel away, the more it's almost like at the center. Like it's kind of clear from the very beginning. Like again, I think also a type of film like Twitter is going to like have an absolute field day with, just because again Ryan Johnson is an avid Twitter user and does tweet a lot and does show a lot of appreciation for like a lot of films that have been out recently, and also the performances and the writing are really great in this movie. The movie is a bit more visually grandiose than the first film, and the movie, in my opinion, is a bit more aesthetically pleasing at best, even though the first one takes place in like a New England mansion, while this one takes place in a very more upscale Greek mansion, which I think it's also had been listed somewhere online, but I don't know where. But again, I really like the comedy in this movie. I really like performances. The writing is great in this movie. So at number 6, it's Glass Onion. At number 5, it's Top Gun Maverick. Almost like Todd Field's Tar, as in it's a beautifully shot movie that is a long way happening, or it's a movie that's like decades in the making. Well, something with Top Gun Maverick is a movie that I keep thinking back to a lot recently, even though the movie is getting better and better the more I think about it. It's more than just a dumb action movie about some pilots shooting some stuff about uranium. Again, I feel like the movie is basically how Tom Cruise's character, being Maverick, still has a lot of guilt being washed over him, particularly with Goose's death, and having to confront the reality that Goose's son is literally in the same place as him, literally as he is right now, which is putting him on a little bit of edge at the moment. The performance of Tom Cruise is definitely his strongest he has been in for like a very long time, particularly so much so he has his first Oscar nomination since Magnolia. Cinematography, particularly in the opening scene, is beautiful beyond belief, and also the editing is really great, the sound effects are amazing, and the action scenes, particularly when they're both practicing and pulling off that massive act during the third act, is unbelievably amazing. Like, it's the type of film that Tom Cruise really did deliver on as well. Like, it will put people's butts into their seats, and it's not a film you can just watch off Netflix or Prime or Disney Plus. Like, you just sit on your sofa or watch it with your laptop, or more degrading, watch it on your phone. Like, this is something you have to see on the biggest screen possible. Like, if this movie doesn't convince you to go back to your cinema after the pandemic, then nothing will, unfortunately. The performances are, again, brilliant. The direction and how much tension not just between the pilots, but also, particularly in the third act, it gets really almost under your skin at best, but even the music is really, really good. Like, it has Lady Gaga's Hold My Hand in the movie, which is a great song, and it's also done in an orchestra version with Hans Zimmer and Lady Gaga composing as well, which is basically an icing on a cake, but the cherry on top is basically, it's not just a sequel that's like, here you go. There's like loads and loads of effort put into this, and I think this is something that Joseph Kosinski and of course Tom Cruise and Miles Teller and a lot of the cast members are going to be like super proud of, like for years to come. And something that a lot of audiences can really cherish and can like grip onto, like the why cinema today is still alive. And that's why I love movies. At number 4, we have Matt Reeves and DC's The Batman. This is a very, very interesting movie at best, because the movie is less more of like a traditional 1960s Batman, where it's just kapow, pow, and like silly sound effects and silly visual effects. This movie feels more akin to something like David Fincher's work, like Seven, How to Girl with Dragon Tattoo, and Gone Girl. But something particularly, or Zodiac, something particularly on those lines as like more detective noir or more psychological thriller with a really nice and really potent colour palette at best. And also the music, even though it does recycle a bit from Nirvana's Something in the Way from the Nevermind album, is like really good, is brilliant as well. The performances as almost like an emotionally jaded Batman who, would you say, is not really going for this goth phase, but going to see almost like goths themselves. They kind of see the beauty within the darkness and beauty within like some more of like a morbid territory and more morbid aesthetics, which I think this is something that Batman is really akin to, since Gotham is like inherently gothic, like I would say. The performances of Colin Farrell and Paul Dano are brilliant as well as Andy Serkis, who really stole the show as Alfred, and Robert Pattinson is undoubtedly brilliant in this movie. So I can say this is the cinematography as well is like extremely good. Like it had no reason to be that good, even though it never got an Oscar nomination. But still, it's like one of the best top tier cinematographies of the year. The makeup design of the Penguin or Colin Farrell's character looks nothing like Colin Farrell, which is a very, very good thing. And again, the movie doesn't necessarily scream superhero into your face like a lot of MCU stuff, even in a year where a lot of superhero movies are not doing as great at the moment, because none of them, I think off the top of my head, grossed $1 billion in the box office. But again, I think if you want something that's truly like a cinematic moment of this year, like a cinematic zeitgeist, I think Batman is definitely one of them at the moment. So I wonder when they're going to release Batgirl, if like Warner Brothers isn't like too obsessed with cost cutting. But number 4 is the Batman. At number 3 we have Robert Eggers' The Northman. Even though unfortunately the movie unfortunately bombed in its theatrical run, but eventually did pick up steam through its DVD and Blu-ray releases, streaming rights, and on demand, which means thankfully some people did finally get to see it, but it didn't do it justice, since it's, again, like a lot of these movies on this list, it's the type of film you really do have to see on the biggest screen possible. And the movie's aesthetics and cinematography and the mise-en-scène in this movie is gorgeous and really unparalleled, and the violence in this movie and the gore in it did not hold back at all. Like, it was almost like a heavy metal or death metal album art that is like screaming into your face, and it's just really unforgiving and just really, really goes into your sense and just never holds anything back. The performances are brilliant, and even from like Alexander Skarsgård to Nicole Kidman to Bjork in the movie. And again, this movie is just amazing. I could go on and on about this movie, but even though the movie does recycle like a lot of plot elements from like William Shakespeare's Hamlet, but the movie itself is just so gorgeous to look at, both in a visual sense and a more of an atmosphere. It's almost like going to a concert where you see all this lore just going to wash over you. Like, it's just a marvelous movie. It's just really, really good. I just hope more people would have seen it when it came out in cinemas. But again, this is a pretty dope film. For number 2, it's another movie like The Northman that critics love, but unfortunately didn't do that great in the box office. It's The Fablesman by Steven Spielberg. It's basically his semi-autobiographic movie about his upbringings in mostly Arizona and California, and how he basically used film as basically as an escape and as therapy while his parents' relationship begins to really deteriorate as they were going into the midst of a divorce, and he was also suffering a lot of bullying while going to school. The movie, again, it's almost like a lot of Spielberg movies. It's a lot about broken families and a lot about sentimentality, but I think in this movie, I think this is him at his most honest and one of his most coziest and one of the most warm films out there. Yeah, I think a lot of his films were, of course, leading up to this movie in the almost kind of a weird sentimental way. That's not in a way that's definitely creepy, but in a way that almost feels like he's completed what he's done now. Like, he almost, as a director, has gone full circle. Like, his debut film being Duel, which is almost like an allegory about his time being bullied at school, to back to The Fablesman, about not just him being bullied at school, but his upbringings, which he has been openly proud of saying, and he has spoken in a lot of interviews about, like, the amount of passion that he poured into this movie, and a lot of love that has been poured into this movie, has been done into some great use. Like, the writing and direction by Spielberg is absolutely brilliant. The performances of Seth Rogen, Michelle Williams, Paul Dano, and A brief role of David Lynch is really certainly memorable, but all of them are equally brilliant, and as well as the cinematography is immaculate as well. And the music work, even though it's definitely one of the last ones, we might hear from John Williams, because considering he's like in his 90s now, and said he will mostly do Spielbergian films from now on, is really gorgeous. It's almost like the director, it's almost like Radiohead's Moonshaped Pool. It's like the band adds last pair of legs, and I think it's been, they've been on like a long journey together, like Spielberg, been on a long journey together with the audience, and of course the movie is a very heartwarming at best. I'm definitely one of the most cheeriest cinematic experiences I had like all year round this year. And the number one film of 2022 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. In a year when the MCU is losing momentum and, what you say, losing its edge, to say at least, and with Rick and Morty basically now on life support now, and Infinity Train from Cartoon Network being thrown under the bus by Warner Brothers, there is only one IP or one film that dealt with the multiverse and, what you say, had a really good year this year, and it's Everything Everywhere All at Once by the Daniels. The movie is just balls to the walls insanity that just never stops, and it's proud of it. It's like a wild ball of energy and electricity that just bursts open like the Big Bang, and also the movie has loads of like chaotic energy. Like the movie is taking you onto the ride and making sure you will never forget it. Like, and also even in the movie's more softer moments, like it really does showcase the movie's like extremely bright aspects. Like the writing is absolutely top notch. The performances, particularly of Michelle Yeoh, Jamie Lee Curtis, and definitely so of Connery Gay, are absolutely at their strong point, at their apex as well. The editing and visual effects are just mind-blowing and done in a way that it doesn't at all cheapen the experience. It's done in a way that will blow your mind in every creative and conceivable way possible. The music as well, particularly some softer ballads like by Mitski and the lead guy from Talking Heads, and to one or more chest bumping and more adrenaline rushing moments like Andre 3000. Like the movie is just literally in your face and just is brimming with colours, and it's just almost like an assault on all your senses. Like how many senses could we assault till we like blow your brains open like confetti? It's almost in a weird sense, it's like Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which is on Netflix at the moment, which I really like. Like it's something that really, like the two properties, it did not hold back like at all. It did not give any audiences a break to breathe. Like it just keeps going and just upping itself with like pure insanity, and it just does a way that ups itself like literally in each and every scene, and definitely in the more slow, more emotional scenes it still really delivers like in its extreme strong points in the movie. So number one, it's Everything Everywhere All at Once by the Daniels. Is my number one film of 2022. So, what do you think of my list of my top films of 2022? Let me know in the comments below, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and this is Elijah Wells, and bye!